My name is Rob Rule. I'm the executive director for Center for Warriors Foundation. I've spent my life in construction and now retired. My wife's retired. And we're putting together several projects for veterans that had really become, let me rephrase this. On October 8th, 2020, completely changed my life in the direction we were headed. We were always looking at the fact that veteran suicide was out of control.
Isn't it 4 times higher than the regular average?
It was 22 a day pre-pandemic.
Jeez.
But because of the isolation,
Yep.
it went to 44 a day in this nation.
Jesus.
And it's horrible. And we had a guy right here in Butte, Neil Ray Olette. He got damaged in war and very heavy TBI, traumatic brain injury.
Yes.
And he came home, and instead of all the doctors really doing things right, what they did was just put him on heavy psychotropic drugs. And I hear, unfortunately, that's the norm.
Yep.
So when they put him on real heavy psychotropic drugs, he got hooked on them. In the pandemic, on October 1st, his prescription ran out. And he called the VA, and he called, never could get an answer or a return phone call. On October 8th, out of desperation, he finally drove up to Helena, to the VA. And he couldn't get in. There were guards that wouldn't let him in, concrete barriers that they set. So out of complete desperation and in pain, he parked his car at Albertsons on Fee Street, right by the Highway 12, I-15 overpass.
Okay.
Walked out to the overpass in fear that the fall wouldn't kill him. He waited for a southbound car, and he jumped. My wife and I had just, maybe a month before, got our second COVID shot and felt comfortable about going out. My wife and I were at Walmart, which is only a block away when that happened. And we heard sirens coming in from every different direction.
Yeah.
On the way home, my wife saw on Facebook that it was a veteran that suspected suicide. Later on that day, my wife saw more reports, and it was a Marine veteran. The next day, an obituary came out in the paper, and I read it completely. And I was able to get a hold of the mortuary. They couldn't give out the name, so I gave them my name, and then I'm with Center for Warriors Foundation, and asked him to get a hold of the family and have them contact me. And she did. I got a phone call, and that's when I got the full description of everything. See, Neil was a kind of a person that would get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to help a neighbor.
Yeah.
He had a beautiful, warm, sensitive heart.
Yeah.
But he lost all hope. And unfortunately, we hear that story so many times.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my gears got completely redriven towards helping. So we're looking at putting a massive veteran center in. Whether or not it's in Sheridan, whether or not it's in Dillon, we don't know yet.
Is that what the, sorry to interrupt, the Old Town project I was looking at on your website?
Correct.
Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
It's a 240,000 square foot center.
It's huge.
And what we're looking at doing is bringing over 30 organizations in under one roof.
Ooh, that would be amazing. Yeah.
See, we've got a lot of really good foundations across this nation. The problem is they either deal with the spirit, or they deal with the mind, or they deal with the body, or they deal with the family. But there's no foundation, nothing out there that takes a holistic approach and deals with the whole man.
Yeah.
See, we're made in God's image, made of body, mind, and spirit. And unless you heal it in the proper order and its completedness, it's just that's the problem with these foundations out there right now. Many of them are really, really good, and I'm not going to take away from them. They do find that they give a temporary reprieve.
Yeah.
They do bring relief, but they never completely heal.
Yeah. Like you said, temporary relief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think right now is the biggest thing in the country that is spiking up the veteran suicide rates?
Lack of God.
Okay.
See, the only facility in this nation that is large enough to be able to have an effect is the VA.
Mm-hmm.
Back about 6 months ago, I spent an entire day going through, talking to the different departments. And I got to the psych department and sat down with a few ladies. Sorry.
Oh,
All
no,
good.
you're good.
Sat down with a few ladies and I said to them, is it me or is it really here? I see such a low morale.
Mm.
So I told her a little bit about just briefly what we were looking at building. And she answered me with a question. What are you building? How are you approaching it? And I said, it has to start with God.
Yeah.
Has to start with spiritual healing. And the one lady leant back in her chair and said, I could not agree with you more.
Mm.
That is why the morale is so low here. We work and we work hard. But without starting off with God and without spiritual healing, that mental and emotional healing will never hold.
Yeah. Have
you always been kind of close to the veteran issue, or was it that day in 2020 that kind of set it in stone?
It was
for
that
you?
day that set it in stone.
Really, yeah.
For years, we've been working on that project down there.
Old
in
Town.
Old Town, Sheridan.
Gotcha.
And it was always going to have a veteran center in it. But I'm that guy, which is probably like a lot of people, who are looking at doing it to advance our program,
Yeah.
make us look better.
No.
Not just to put one there.
And I never got it. I never really completely understood. That's why I say on October 8th, 2020, changed the way I look at everything,
Yeah.
changed my life.
How soon after did the Center for Warriors initiative kind of take place?
It was already taking place,
Okay.
but not through Center for Warriors. In 2020, November of 2022 is when we became a 501c3.
Okay, so very soon after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
You kicked it right into high gear. Oh yeah.
Yep.
And how much I guess, how much willingness have you seen from the community and state and local officials on stuff like this?
Well, at first, I would say probably until the last year, we had a lot of resistance,
Interesting. From where specifically?
specifically the Montana GOP.
Oh,
Mm.
interesting.
Do you know
I-
why?
Well, because they looked at me as taking their donors.
Yeah.
It's a competition thing in
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
mind rather than a team work experience.
Last February of 2024, we held a fundraiser at the Kleffner Ranch. And we invited multiple people from the Montana GOP because the winter kickoff just ended.
Yep.
And so we had several people come over, and a lot of people bid on a lot of our stuff on our auction, and we brought in thousands of dollars.
Nice.
Montana GOP planted 2 young girls, one that was 18, one was 21, that turned around and claimed that I fondled them, that I did all sorts of things. They were planted there to take me down.
Jesus.
And when I went to court, one was dropped, the other one was perfected. I had a restraining order on me.
Jeez.
I appealed it, and the higher courts saw right through it,
Yep.
and it was casted away.
That's insane. They were really actually trying to like take you down.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy. When did this happen?
February.
February. This February.
No, a year ago.
Okay.
A year ago,
gotcha.
February.
Jeez. Gee, did you talk to him at all after that? Get into contact with them? Anything?
I've avoided them like the plague.
Yeah, I
fair.
would too.
Jeez. Yeah, that's crazy. Ooh.
The vice chair of the Montana GOP did not fall in suit with them. As a matter of fact, she's my political advisor. She's a member of our LLC.
That's crazy.
Up in
Fancy
Great
that.
Falls.
That is a crazy turnaround. What a plot twist. Jesus. Oh, besides the GOP, do you have any resistance from people who I feel like for the most part, getting behind like the whole veteran thing kind of cuts through the whole left and right arguments. Like I feel like it's something all people can agree on.
We are very, very neutral. We have to
Yep.
remain neutral.
Yeah.
100%.
Some of the other people that resisted is other foundations.
Yeah. Competition.
Yeah.
Have you talked to, I assume you have obviously, talked to like other veterans about your idea and what you want to do?
Yes.
Good.
And we'll get to that in a
Awesome.
little bit when we.
Perfect.
Oh yeah. He does it. You do a lot of stuff. You do a lot of, you put together a lot of events, activities. Is that something you'd want to get into right now?
Sure.
Perfect.
We are probably easily the fastest growing veteran organization in the state of Montana.
Awesome.
We have, it's almost like we're in revival.
Interesting.
We have a lot of members that are veterans in our programs
Good.
that all of a sudden are wanting to start different programs. Like we've got a program to be able to start on taking care and helping heal
Yeah.
battered wives and children. So yeah, I didn't even think about that before.
Yeah.
There's a lot of men who come back from war, can't look in the mirror because of things they were told to do. And they come home and they're angry. They turn to alcohol. Stay out drinking too late at night,
Yeah.
later and later. And when they get confronted by their wife, the anger that's in them, unfortunately, they knock them across the room. Pretty soon that gets easier and easier.
Yeah.
Then the children are victims. My veteran who wants to start this program, he said to me, Rob, I was that guy.
Takes a lot of courage to admit
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
A lot.
Ooh. That's heavy. That's heavy.
Then we have the vet rep for Senator Daines. Not Senator Daines, Zinke,
Okay.
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 Congressman Zinke.
Yep.
He wants to see us start, and he can't really get involved, but he'll oversee it because of the law. He can't get involved.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he wants to see us start a program, which we're starting now, for a reentry program. So when we come back from full-time service and come back into society, to help them get replanted.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be the best thing. You know, I could only imagine how hard it is to be over in a completely different part of the world, you know, things you're subjected to, things you see every day. You come back here and everybody just kind of expects you to just drop it, act normal, you know. It's just wild.
So another program we started was in 2023, our trail camp for veterans.
Okay.
See, we've had a lot of veterans that we've talked to that said, I will never pick up another gun again.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get them into bow hunting. The first year, we had 2 veterans sign up. Only 1 showed up. And that didn't go too well.
Oh.
But we wanted to go ahead and give it 1 more year.
Yeah.
Our 2024 elk camp, first of all, Action Track Wheelchair through Hell's Aurora Outfitters sponsoring it. donated a $20,000 all-terrain track wheelchair so that we can take paralyzed vets.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's beautiful.
We had 37 sign up for camp. 2 more right in the middle of it that showed up. So we took a total of 39, and 2 of them were paralyzed veterans.
Nice.
See, our elk camp is different from any other elk camp in the world.
Yeah.
We have programs.
Mm.
See, Friday night we would have Don Reed, the Montana chapter president of Sons of the American Revolution, would come out at night, at evening, every Friday night. Would come out dressed up in his American Revolution outfit.
Yep.
And would stand around the campfire with all of our veterans telling us war stories.
Mm.
And when they left, when he left, conversations would start rising up, talking about how nothing is really new under the sun.
Yeah.
Just different armament.
Yeah.
Warfare is warfare.
Mm-hmm.
And that went really, really well.
Good.
Sunday afternoon, we had 2 gals come out and do equine therapy every Sunday.
And that's horses and stuff, right?
Yep.
Nice.
During that, it changed a lot of lives.
I'm sure.
I bet.
We led one to the Lord through salvation,
Mm.
and we changed a lot of hearts. Those 2 gals that's the first time I've ever been exposed to it.
Yeah.
It was powerful, really powerful the way these ladies brought it. And then on Monday afternoon, we had Rocky Mountain hunting calls. Somebody come out and do demonstrations and teach everybody.
Yeah.
Because out of the 39 hunters, only 2 of them were seasoned hunters.
Ooh.
We
It's
had
a lot of training to do.
teach
Yeah.
everybody how to
That's
hunt.
It's not something that's super easy
Yeah.
to teach either.
And that's a lot of people to be teaching.
Oh yeah.
See, on the ranch that we got is a ranch I'm not going to talk about here on air,
Yeah.
but it's a private ranch where for years I've been noticing a lot of elk. And when we started this program, I went to him and said to him, I see a lot of elk on your property. Undoubtedly, I'm sure they cause a lot of problems to your hay fields and things. We started a program taking veterans out hunting.
Yeah.
So he asked me more questions about it, and he said, that's why I don't let people hunt. I reserved for our veterans. And he gave me the name and number of the ranch manager. And he said, you tell him that I said for him to let you guys on. Well, that first year, we only had 4 days. 2023, we had the entire month of September.
Ooh.
He gave us first choice. Now we're putting up 2 signs on that ranch, and we're controlling everything.
Really?
You guys are making
That's awesome.
waves.
Yeah. We also had KTVH NBC TV come out, and she did a really beautiful segment. And that segment that she did was so powerful that national NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, and Fox picked it up. I'm getting hits on my website.
Yeah.
And I've just got another one just when I just pulled in
Yeah.
out here front of people, and we know that we're going to have to cut it off at 80.
Yep.
We might be able to go up to about 110
Yeah.
by going an extra week.
Once you go past that, that's just mayhem.
We knew we had to get a second ranch. I got a hold of an old school friend of mine, Ben Galt.
Mm.
Galt Ranch is over 100,000 acres. It's the 4th largest ranch in the state of Montana, up out of White Sulphur.
Yep.
We have full control of that ranch.
Nice.
You guys will never
That's
run out of
amazing.
elk.
No.
Never.
No, not for a
No.
long time.
100,000
Yeah.
acres. I couldn't even visualize it. That's wild.
And also in the programs there too, on Wednesday afternoon, we had Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation come out, and they did a presentation on habitat and
Yeah.
Awesome.
why we hunt.
Yeah.
Because, like I said before, we had a lot of new hunters
Mm-hmm.
that really didn't know and understand.
Mm-hmm.
Understand the conservation efforts behind what hunting is,
Correct.
how it can help manage the populations rather than destroy them.
And strengthen them.
Yeah.
On that ranch, we were only able to shoot 6 points or larger, or cows,
Yeah.
except for the guys in the wheelchairs.
Yep.
They could shoot anything.
Okay.
And there were at least 24 6-point or larger on that ranch. 2 of them that were in the 380s and one that was even in the 390s, probably close to 400s.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And what I would do is I would, around the campfire every afternoon, I'd bring in everybody and would start teaching them a little tiny bit. And I taught them how to count a 6-point.
Mm-hmm.
I said to them, automatically the first 3 are the ones that come out front. The 4th, which is the royal, is the first one that goes straight up. All you have to do is count the points past it.
Mm.
Well, we had one guy that obviously either didn't pay attention or wasn't there, was taking a nap.
Yeah.
Because we watched this one herd, because every morning when we would set up on the other side of the highway, out in the fields, the farmers' fields, there was herds of anywhere from 60 to 300 head of elk out there. We watched this one big 6x6, about a 320 class bull, thought that he was controlled that whole entire herd.
Yeah.
And as soon as those cows started going to estrus, one of the 380 bulls came in. The sun was just starting to come up.
Jesus.
This sunrise was beautiful pink.
Cinematic.
And yeah.
It's like one of those Montana nature documentaries. Yeah.
And that 380 bull came in, and all of a sudden a cloud of dust. You couldn't even see the fight. Just a big ball of dust. See, probably the most dangerous part of a fight is the exit of the one that's defeated.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Quite often they do get gored right in the side of the stomach when they're turning.
Yep.
That 320 bull was getting pounded. And he found the right avenue out, exit out, and he came out of that dust ball on a dead run. Jumped over the first fence, jumped into the highway, almost got hit by a car, jumped over the second fence on a dead run. And I knew I had hunters right in line with where he was going. And as they were coming down out of the mountains later on in the morning, about 11 o'clock in the morning, first one came down. I said, "Did you see that 6x6? He goes, "Yeah." Problem is, he was about 90 yards from me. Next one said 100. Next one said 120.
Yeah.
Then comes down Mike. Mike comes down, and I said, and he was up on the very top.
Yeah.
I said, "Did you see that 6x6? He goes, "No, I had a 5x5 come in," which there was a lot of those up there. And he came in, and when I realized that he was a 5-point, put my bow down, grabbed my phone, and took a video of it. He was 40 yards from me for 4 or 5 minutes, just feeding.
Yep.
He got to a point with where he was finally calmed down and settled down and was just eating. I said, "Let me see that picture, Mike." So he showed it to me, and I immediately put my head down in my hands and I go, no. And he goes, What? "Oh, tell me it's not. And I said, "Yep, that was the 6-point. That was at the 320 6x6.
Oh, that realization's gotta suck.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
And the rest of the veterans in the group, man, did they tease him. And
Oh, my God.
He still has not lived that down. He's now on one of my officers on the board of directors.
that's cool.
Okay.
So every time we have a board meeting, I usually bring up that picture. And he just says, "Rob, you can take that picture down anytime."
How much do you think that sense of camaraderie helps? You know, like being able to go out with these people who have shared similar experiences with you, you know, and like, because like you said, that isolation is a big factor in PTSD and stuff like that. I feel like camaraderie, like what you're doing with these elk camps, is probably like the best thing you could probably do.
Very much.
For sure.
That camaraderie got so tight, and those brothers in arms got so close. When each group, because the groups we had anywhere from 12 to 15 come in every week,
Yeah.
each Saturday, as the one group was leaving, every veteran, came up and shook hands with everybody. When they got to me, gave me a big hug. And many of them broke down crying
I'm sure.
and said, I can hardly wait for next year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. How are
love
you in the
that.
process of creating right now? Because right now you got that elk hunt every year. Is there anything you plan on doing for summer events, anything like that along those lines? I know you got that Memorial Day
Yep.
event coming up.
Yes. Now that you mentioned that,
Perfect. Perfect.
when we were out to see the galts out at the Galt Ranch out of White Sulphur,
Okay.
one of his friends that he had with him is a fly fishing guide.
Ooh.
And when he heard everything that we're doing, he says, I'm in.
That'd be nice.
So
That's
what I
gonna be
told him,
cool.
I've got 2 guys who are heavy into fly fishing, that if you oversee it, we will be the work behind it and would like your participation in it. But if you'd come in and bring your fly fishing guide expertise in it,
Yeah.
let's get that going. So
Oh, yeah.
that's starting this summer.
That'll
Awesome.
be cool. That'll be cool. Is there an end goal you have for this? I know you want to build Old Town, and obviously, I think you said multiple homeless kind of shelters around the state for homeless veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's finish off one thing first.
Perfect. Gotcha.
On that elk hunt, we're going to add a lot more programs this year. We're getting a second ranch,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and things are going to expand. Last year we got a 32-day permit from the Forest Service to be able to set up camp,
Yeah. Yeah.
a long-term camp.
That's big.
And one of the local ranchers, Judith Ann Vincent, she fell in love with what we're doing so much that she even brought up one big, beautiful ham dinner for everybody. And she said she wants to do that once a week now. When she discovered that we really didn't have any place permanent, she said, Rob, let me show you a little piece of property I have off to the side. It's up the road about another 300 yards, 33-acre piece. You want to use this and make a permanent camp? So we're going to be building some outbuildings. The cool part about it is it's only about 280 feet away from power. So we can even bring power down.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And we'll go out and drill a well, and we'll put in a septic system
Yeah.
and put up hookups for campers with 30 amp circuits and drains for
Yeah.
their tanks.
I'm sure that'd make it to where you could have more people there too. I'm sure, right?
Yeah, but we really can't hold much more than 40.
Fair.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We can probably hold a few more, but then we've got to just kind of take and piecemeal. Okay, you guys have to hunt here in National Forest Service
Yeah.
land and take turns going out in that other ranch, which we're right in the heart of some really, really good elk hunting.
Oh, yeah.
See, the one part about that is I was part of that 5% club. I was getting my elk every year. I've got 3 of them in Pope that qualify for Pope and Young.
Yeah, you were telling me that. That's crazy.
And it got to the point with where it started getting to be more work than it was challenge. See, I'm that guy that can bring that one herd bull in that's bedded down 400 yards away.
Yeah.
That's only answers to one every 10 bugles.
Yep.
I've learned how to bring them out and bring them down real angry. And it got to the point with where there was no more challenge to it. And I was just about ready to stop hunting
Mm-hmm.
when I decided to start this elk camp in 23. This camp that I did right this last year, it was so fulfilling.
Yeah.
My camp manager, Dennis Burns, he and I stayed, had the help there, cleaned up camp and left it better than it ever has been.
Yep.
And when we even cleaned out the fire pit, it looked like a park by the time we left.
Yeah.
But Dennis and I stayed back one day to be able to, next morning, get up, compare notes, look at the things that we could do better, look at the things that didn't work,
Yeah.
things we could add. And after Dennis left to go start working on his camper, when it hit me, impact we had on those veterans
Mm-hmm.
and with all the future programs we have, it hit me hard, deep in my heart. I probably spent an hour and a half crying. And my question to God was, why me? Why have you chosen me to do this? See, I went through some things in my life for a 10-year period that we lived in California.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go in detail about it, but it's something that has caused serious, serious PTSD with me. If I even see a person from that nationality, I get the shakes.
Mm.
I'm also an alcoholic. On January 19th, 1999, I was a state inspector for hospitals and nursing homes. When I was down in California, I built a lot of nursing homes, medical clinics,
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of experience in the medical world. So I ended up getting a really good job with the state of Montana as a state inspector for hospitals and nursing homes for the entire state of Montana. I was up in Chinook, Montana. I closed down the bar that night. Because of that stuff that happened down in California, my alcohol went crazy. I have no idea how I even held that job, the things I did. Drinking in the state car. No idea. I got to the point that night with where I knew my wife, my kids, my brother, my sister, my mom, my grandchildren, and all my friends would be better off in this world without me. 35 below zero that night. I closed down the bar, bought an extra couple of beers, and sat in the porch and drank those last two. I looked at that water tower right in the middle of town, and I knew everybody would be better off without me. I got over that fence and got up in that ladder, and was about a third of the way up. I couldn't hold on to the rungs anymore. I only had dress gloves on.
Yeah.
My hands were like,
Freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
so I locked my arms in. And I looked down to see if I was up high enough. I figured I was only high enough to shatter my legs, shatter my hips, maybe my spine. But I don't think I was high enough to kill myself.
Mm.
I remember crying out to God for help. Somehow I got down. No idea how. You know, like when you're driving along and you all of a sudden pass up 30 or 40 miles. And
Yep.
how'd they get here?
Yeah.
You like
yeah.
have that
Yeah.
realization.
Yeah.
I've been driving for 10 minutes. Jesus.
I was down on the ground. I have no idea how I got
Yeah.
down. Drove into town, into Helena, called in sick. Drove into Helena, too embarrassed to see my wife. My mom always got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's about the time I got in Helena.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped and had coffee there. 7 o'clock, called up the AA hotline, and they sent down two guys. That was my last drink. I know what that feels like, to lose all hope, to think that you're a lot better off dead. Because of all that, God allowed me to go through some things in my life and put me in a place that drew me close to Him. Was able to, if you were to see who I was before that, I was not a good person. Through the AA program and through God, my life is totally different. I'm living for others now.
Yeah.
I've taken enough. Now it's my turn to give. And after I asked God, why me? And all those thoughts came to mind. That's why me.
Yeah.
Seemed like the perfect guy to do it. You're doing good at it too. You
I
know,
love what I do.
Yeah. And that's what you need when you're doing something like this.
that shows.
I put in 78, 80 hours a week, and it's not even work.
Yeah. Genuinely, yeah. I mean, you've been doing it for 5 years. You already got 2 hunting camps established. You're starting to get into more stuff. You already have a location scouted for the homeless shelter up here, right?
Yeah. That was the next part
Yeah.
that we were going to go into.
Perfect. Perfect.
One of the areas we're looking at, first of all, what we want to do is create programs that when we build that big center down there, there's a lot of programs across the nation that either do not exist or do not exist the way that we think that they need to be.
Yep.
So there's no foundations or programs to incorporate into that big facility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got to create them now. So as we're going down through creating them, to be able to help the families that have already lost their loved ones to suicide and create programs to be able to start stopping suicide. See, these are just programs that are going to be adopted into everything that we're doing, into
Okay.
the big picture.
Yeah.
Even this facility right here will not necessarily stop suicide. This is the one single program that has to go on deeper.
Yeah.
And that facility down in Dillon or Sheridan will be the one that'll take it the rest of the way home.
Gotcha.
See, there's a lot of homeless shelters for veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some programs out there who have a little bit of services to help them get back on their feet. What we are envisioning here is a program that we've already designed up, has multiple layers
Oh,
of
yeah.
program.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. You got it figured out.
34 major programs with multiple different tiers under it.
Awesome.
This is a program that we're going to be doing that is going to bring the homeless veteran and give them shelter. Then we're going to take them through programs. The first 6 months, they won't even leave. That first 6-month program is a lot of mental health programs and spiritual programs
Yeah.
to be able to help get their mind and their spirit grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll bring in education. You know, we've got a college right here. We've got a lot of different education sources,
Yep.
resources.
Yeah. A few.
Missoula and Bozeman are just a little bit away too.
Yeah.
But our job here, then for the next 18 months, we'll be helping them get a job. We'll be helping them get to the point with where we'll be working with their employers. Our whole entire goal here is to remove the employment barriers. Unfortunately, because they've been homeless and they're homeless for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
because they failed in their regular life because of an attitude or something that went on in their life. There's many different things. But what has happened now is they can't hold a job. And that's why they remained homeless.
Yeah.
So we're going to remove those barriers, working with their employer. You know, Butte and Billings has the lowest what word am I looking for? Cost of living
Yeah.
of any city in the state of Montana.
Mm-hmm.
Butte has anywhere between 400 to 1,100 jobs open on any given day. There's not enough people to cover them. So we're going to take a whole group of people. This facility will be taking 125 at a time through the
Ooh.
2-year program.
That's awesome.
That will be reconstructed, rebuilt with where they can become solid
Yeah.
neighbors, solid employees, solid citizens.
Yeah.
These programs will get them there. We will cover all their shelter, all their food, all the programs, everything. Right here in that
Yeah.
facility. And it is a gorgeous facility. It's an old 1895 building.
Oh yeah,
Ooh,
right uptown.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, those buildings are
Awesome.
gorgeous.
up in North Main.
They don't let
Love
them
it.
work on them or anything too much, really, so that they don't like take out all the old stuff and then
Right.
replace it with like new crappy stuff.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
That'll be beautiful. Yeah.
How hard has it been to go about getting? This is nonprofit, obviously.
Correct.
How hard is it to go about getting the funding for something like this?
It has been a challenge,
Yeah.
but what we had to do is just get through to the right people.
Yeah,
Mhm.
find the right audience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
makes sense.
it's like that big project. We brought in a guy that now is our senior advisor and acting CEO for our LLC. He looked at everything, our entire business plan for that big facility for Old Town Sheridan facility, and he looked at it all and he called me back up and he said, "Where are you at with raising money for this?" I said, "We probably have 30 to 40 big, deep-pocketed investors that won't say yes and won't say no. They're just sitting on the sidelines waiting to see things."
Yeah.
He said, "At first sight, I can see that this is a really tremendous project. And I can see exactly where you're going to it. And yes, it will work." He goes, "I've been over and over and over about 3 or 4 times. And our business plan is over 100 pages long. It's a big one. Has all the financials in it, has everything in it."
Yeah.
But he said, because it is, you're shooting for the stars. I have no doubt you're going to hit them. But those investors probably have a lot of doubt.
Yeah.
He said, so what you need to do is create at least 3 foundations that you're going to need down there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But the 3 foundations need to be foundations that you're shooting high for, that you're shooting for the moon. And you're going to have to hit the moon to be able to go back to them and say, look at our track record of what we've done,
Yeah.
what we've accomplished. See, one of the other programs that we created, going back to that February last year, that event, that
Yep.
the
Yeah.
GOP,
Yeah.
that was to create a fundraiser. We have what's called a Green Star family. Most people have heard what a Gold Star family is. Very few people has ever heard of a Green Star family. I've been on TV several times, been on the radio multiple times, and people are starting to understand. They've heard of it now.
Mm.
Green Star family are the family members left behind after veteran suicide. There's no programs. What we're doing is we're starting a whole series of programs. We have all the programs already designed.
Yeah.
We can't get moms to call us because the way that they were treated after their husband
Yeah.
took their own life, and they don't believe there's anybody really out there to help them.
Yeah.
See, when Dad takes his own life, that mortgage payment required her paycheck and his paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
When he takes his own life, her paycheck can't go that far, and they quite often lose their homes. Survivor guilt is a lot different than what Dad getting killed in war. See, there's a lot of guilt even by the kids. If I would have been a better son or daughter, would Dad have taken his own life?
Yeah.
Some of the older teens or mom could be saying, why couldn't I see that he was in so much trouble?
Mm-hmm.
There are so many things, and it hits the family differently, each member differently. Childhood suicide is really high in these families. It might come out in anger, in deep depression, in guilt.
Yeah.
There's many different ways that it comes out. And when it does come out, it destroys their life. Quite often end up in the system. Mom has to take on 2 jobs to be able to get, she's already lost the house to get them into an apartment. So there's no supervision. And they're just abandoned. I don't want them to feel that way.
Yeah.
Our goal, real heavy goal, is to take care of them. The only way that we felt like we could definitely get across to Mom that we really are there to help is by starting to help their kids.
Yeah.
That fundraiser was to create a scholarship program. Neil Rayolette's, while I was off throughout Montana trying to find a family to be able to help their child with a scholarship to get them into college, it was right in my nose all along. Neil Rayolette's sister, her daughter, was 5 or 6 years old. See, Neil was the daddy in her life because her real dad left long before. So Neil was a father figure. And when he took his own life, it devastated her. See, little Chloe is now 12 years old. I don't know what's going on in her life right now, but I know there has to be some trouble going on. So we're going to go out and award her the scholarship on Memorial Day.
Perfect.
Nice.
Do you want it to be a surprise? We could cut that out of this if you want us to.
I mean, I'm sure she won't.
Yeah, she
watch
probably won't
this.
watch it. Maybe she might.
Maybe.
You never know.
Yeah.
Social
maybe.
media is a crazy thing.
We'll cut it
but
out just in case.
Yeah. I assume you want that to be a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
we'll
you.
cut it
no,
out.
no,
No?
I think she knows.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
I think she knows that
All right.
she's getting that.
We didn't
Then
want to
we'll leave it
spoil
in.
anything for you.
But there's some other things that we're doing for her
Gotcha.
that is going to be a surprise.
Awesome.
That's good. Yeah, I find it very interesting when I went to your website because I went to Gideon Land Development and then I also went to the Center for Warriors Foundation. I find it interesting the switch that you've made in the past 10 years. Yeah, it seemed like you were a pretty big land developer over in Helena. Commercially speaking, you got the Lowe's, the Costco, all that kind of stuff over
Right.
there. How has that experience doing land development stuff like this? Does it help kind of going out and talking to different people and trying to get them to help out with this foundation, stuff like that?
Sure. I started developing down in California.
Okay.
And when I came up here, see, I got the Custer Avenue interchange approved. I'm the one who fought for that and got that in.
Yep.
I'm the one who got Costco into town,
Yeah.
Bed Bath & Beyond, Macy's, Macaroni Grill, Chili's, TJ Maxx.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all and many more are my tenants that I brought in. See, those things do give you that ability. For instance, I made a phone call to Blake Shelton's manager. We, up in that project up out of Helena, we were going to give away 5 free homes to get the kind of people we needed in there to be able to
Yeah.
shoot up those prices.
Yep.
And when I had Blake Shelton in town and also Reba McIntyre's son and stepson
Yep.
to be able to look at the lot we had for her, and that's a whole funny story all by itself because Blake came into town. First of all, we met him over in Billings at a concert benefit he was doing for the Deaconess Hospital over there. And the next morning, I met him and took him down for breakfast down at Perkins in Helena. And that is a really funny story, too, because I got him into a back room
Yeah.
without anybody seeing that he was there.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how somebody knew that he was back there, but waitresses kept on taking turns going in and getting his autograph and stuff. And one of the waitresses left the door open. And all of a sudden, these two little 12-year-old girls were standing at the doorway. Are you? Yeah, honey, I'm Blake Shelton. And they all, oh, can we have your autograph? Yeah, honey, what do you got for me to sign? So he ended up signing a napkin for him.
Oh yeah.
They left. The waitress came back and closed the door and said, I'm so sorry. And the next thing you know, there was about 7 or 8
Yeah.
14, 15-year-old
I'm
girls
sure.
out on the sidewalk looking in. So the waitress had to come in and close the blinds down, too.
And then a line starts forming around the
Yep.
Perkins. Yep.
Everybody in that place knew that he was there.
Yep.
And when it came time to leave, we went out to pay. Blake walked right with me. And all of a sudden you could hear this lady scream out, that's Blake Shelton. And you could have heard a pin drop. All eyes were on him. And he hammed it up. He put his hand on my shoulder. He goes, Rob, I need to go use the head. So he walked back to the bathroom. Every eye was following him. You could hear the door squeak open, squeak shut. And to hear 314 people whispering is loud.
I'm sure.
Pretty soon you heard the door open again and went silent. So,
That's got to be a crazy feeling, you know, because famous people don't come to Montana super often, I
Yeah.
feel. So when they do, you know, everybody's all looking at them, just
Yeah.
intrigued. I don't know if you remember when Mark Wahlberg came here.
yeah.
Yeah, everybody was going nuts about that. Harrison Ford,
Yeah.
all that.
He's been here a few times now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my experience even there too. I know how to deal with the rich and famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole entire key there is you never ask them for their autograph.
They're just people.
Yeah.
You treat them like a buddy,
Yeah.
but the second you ask them for their autograph, they have to put up that wall between you.
Yep.
They treat you as a fan instead
Yeah.
of a friend.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And Blake was the son of the age of my middle-aged son.
Yeah.
So I kind of treated him like he was my son.
Yeah, it'd be weird if you were like fanboying over him. Oh my God, Blake Shelton. You're like old enough to be his dad.
Yeah.
You know, knowing that he liked hunting,
Yeah.
and knowing that
Yeah.
he liked the outdoor life, I already had picked out the perfect site for him
Yep.
over one of the big draws that we had coming down that is sectioned off as our wildlife corridor, because we did wildlife study up in those mountains up there in the North Hills. We knew exactly where the elk came down and went back up in the morning. So we also needed to give him a little bit of space and a little bit of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
So coming down halfway down the hill, down this one ridge, there's a little finger drop ridge that comes off
Okay.
that overlooked that draw. So I'd already marked on our big master plan, Blake's lot.
Yeah.
And after I told him everything that we're doing there at that project, he goes, okay, Rob, I'm in. Show me the lot that you have for me. So we drove up the main ridge and down the main ridge, and we stopped. No, we weren't stopped yet. We were coming down it, and Blake said, stop, stop, stop. And he got out like a little kid, went running around, went out to this one point, looked down there, and he said, Rob, I want my house right here. He goes, I want my deck out here so it's overhanging off here. And every morning I have enough privacy, I can see how far I can pee down the hill. So I let him go
That's exactly
on and
what I
on
would
and,
do.
and on and on. And I said, Blake, come out here. I want to show you something. So I rolled out the big set of plans. I said, this is where the ridge is that we came down. This is where we stopped. What does it say right next to my finger? You look down, it said Blake's lot right next
Yeah.
to my finger. He picked out the exact lot that I already
That's crazy.
pre-picked out for him. And he looked up at me, I'll be dang, must be meant to be, huh? So,
That's crazy. You could call Blake
Inter-
Shelton a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting
Yeah.
stories.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
so now I can reach out to those kind of people. Like right now, I'm in the process right now of reaching out to Alexa Penavega and her husband,
Neat.
movie stars, strong
Yeah.
Yep.
Christian people, and I've already been working with her manager,
No.
Oh, gotcha.
and she just loves what we're doing. So I'm supposed to this week setting up a pitch deck.
That'll be
sending
cool.
over
Yeah.
to her
That'll be cool.
to get her and her husband involved with what we're doing.
How much faster has all of this grown than you initially thought it would when you first started in 2020? Is it going about at the rate that you'd hoped, or is it kind of blown your expectations out of the water?
Okay. When we first started it, back in about 2018,
Okay.
Yeah.
it was started a whole new different direction.
Yep.
Still had all the amenities in it, but it was just kind of sluggish.
Mm.
See, everything that we did up in the North Hills out of Helena, all that experience and everything that we had up there, that was on a 15,000 acre
Yep.
project,
Yeah.
now became a 1,500 acre project down in Sheridan. So what we did was we kept the best of everything we already created and just transposed it
Yeah.
and had to redesign it. See, up in the Helena, we were going to be building what was called Diamond City, which was one of the early pioneer towns of Montana. And we were going to rebuild the downtown area exactly the way it was, and it was going to be an 1860s community. All the designs of every home. Going to be LEED certified, carbon neutral, and smart city. So what we were doing was taking the best of all the old West components and hiding behind it all the new technology and stepping it up into the 22nd century, basically.
Yeah.
A new look with the old reliability.
Yep.
Yep.
That's what we were doing down there, too. That's why we called it
Gotcha.
Old Town Sheridan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But we ran into a few issues down there with where we have a little bit of resistance. That's why we started looking elsewhere.
Ranchers, stuff like that.
Well, ranchers, town people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
even the guy that was selling us the land
Yeah.
is even against us.
Really?
So we've got enough resistance.
Yeah.
Can we still make it work? I have no doubt we can.
I'm sure.
I'm sure you can.
But all of a sudden, when we're looking down in Dillon, all of a sudden there's a 9,000 acre parcel. Has 3 creeks on it, right at the foothills of the
Ooh.
major mountains right there.
Oh, yeah.
And the communities we can build from,
Dillon's beautiful.
because, the economy that we're building it in is right equal with the top equine. Well, it'll be equal to Ocala and
Yep.
Wellington in English saddle with polo, Grand Prix jumping, dressage. Then it'll also have the Western saddle. That'll be very equivalent to Calgary.
Gotcha.
So it'll be the top in the in northern North America. And by having those facilities there and having some of the best medical facilities too for equine, we can now bring in the billionaire horse owners and make this theirs.
Yeah.
The reason why we chose that, there's no industry in the world that has a higher predominancy of Christians than the equine world.
Interesting. Is it by a long shot too? Or is it
What do you mean by long shot?
like, is there a lot more Christians in equine fields
all over the world.
than by a lot? Than,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I didn't know that. Interesting.
Even in Europe, even in Saudi Arabia or wherever.
Yeah. Have you always
Interesting.
personally liked horses, stuff like that?
I grew up on horses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You grew up on a ranch?
No,
No.
I had
Just grew
real
up
close
riding.
friends who had
Yeah.
multiple ranches. I grew up hunting on horseback. Grew up riding.
Oh, that's cool.
I bet hunting on horseback feels so cool.
Takes you back to the old
The-
times.
Yeah.
The cool
Yeah.
part about it is the elk. It doesn't bother them because it sounds like a four-legged
Yeah,
animal.
exactly.
You're not in a truck.
Like,
Yeah, or
You're
not,
not
or
talking
not
or
two-legged
anything.
going.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet it's so much easier to sneak up.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you do the horses for the elk hunting stuff, events, stuff like that?
No.
Gotcha.
No, I have a feeling we might be able to add that to Galton.
Okay. Work up to that kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, this year we'll just, Mount Helena Motorsports. He's one of my best supporters for our foundation.
Yeah.
He is the half owner in Mount Helena Motorsports and a half owner in Miller's Crossing. And through those two businesses, they have given us a lot of money and it's helped us
Awesome.
enormously. They knew that we needed a nice a four-wheeler rig, side-by-side.
Yeah.
That'll seat 6 people. So they contacted the manufacturer, and they are donating half. They're going to be on May 3rd up in Helena. They are going to be doing a Center for Warriors fundraiser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Center for Warriors benefit. And it starts off at 9 o'clock in the morning with a poker run on four-wheelers and side-by-sides.
Oh, that's fun.
And it's going to be like a 30 or 40-mile poker run. And that'll take
That's
up the
cool.
whole entire morning and into the afternoon. Then we're going to be doing silent auctions and live auctions. They're going to have a dinner there, and even a raffle.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
So after we got that all set and everything, after I left their place, about an hour later, he called me up and he said, "Yeah, my other owner and I were talking. You know that Arctic cat right out in the middle of the showroom, that real colorful, pretty one? Yeah." He goes, "We're giving that to you so that you can take and travel around town
Oh.
and sell raffle tickets for." He goes, "You can pick up another $2,000 or $3,000 for hunting camp."
That's awesome.
That's got to feel so nice because at the time when you got into it, I'm sure a big pushing factor was people aren't doing enough for veterans, right? And then all of these people are so willing to help you out and like help your mission. You know, I'm sure that's got to feel great.
Yeah. Yeah. Like last year, I myself personally paid out over $13,000 last year for that elk camp.
Yep.
And like my wife said, I'd gladly do it every year
Yeah.
if we needed to. But
Yeah.
now all of a sudden seeing the community getting behind it. So we haven't even really started yet. And
Yeah.
we need to raise $25,000. And we've already got $6,000 without even starting yet.
Yeah,
That's pretty
oh.
crazy.
You guys will get there, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like the VA. The VA, their thrift shop just donated $4,000 to us, knowing
Awesome.
that was coming up.
I didn't know the VA had their own thrift store.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
in Helena.
Interesting. Did not know that.
Yeah, people are knowing who we are.
Yeah.
We're
That's great.
getting our name
You're
out
getting
and
your
around,
name
sure.
out. Yeah.
and all of a sudden now we're not getting that resistance that we used to.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Do you think a big part of that resistance was because at the time you were a little bit more unknown as an organization? Do you think people are more hesitant to work with foundations that they hadn't heard of before?
No, I think what it is we might be in the same lane, but I do things way differently than them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not really infringing on them. Like Impact Montana up in the Helena area is a fantastic organization
Yep.
that does some of the things that we do, but it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as soon as the director saw how much different it was, all of a sudden he's fully on board and helping out with what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
he has stepped down from his role. He was the creator of Impact Montana and might be coming to work with us. I'm going to be meeting with him for the second time this coming Tuesday.
Awesome. That's amazing.
So he may be coming on board with us.
Yeah.
'Cause I definitely would like to have him run this facility.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Seems like a good person to do it.
100%.
Yeah.
Seems like he has the qualifications.
And because of his education too, in Bible school,
Okay.
he's
Yeah.
also going to be our spiritual guru.
Yeah.
Too. He's already committed to that.
Awesome.
He'll be our chaplain.
Do you guys, I imagine you have like a 5-year, 10-year kind of like plan set out and all that. At what point in time in your mind personally do you want to have Old Town kind of finished?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's ambitious. I like it. I like it.
See, everything we're doing right now, it will just make an impact.
Yep.
The facility down in Sheridan or Dillon, let's just say Southwest Montana.
Yep.
Our Southwest Montana large facility, that will stop veteran suicide. See, when you come in down there, our three anchors is Mighty Oak, Reboot, and Christ-Centered Equine Therapy.
Yeah.
It'll be on a separate little ranch that for the first 6 months, we spiritually ground all of our veterans. And, I've had veterans say to me, are you actually expecting that every single person coming through your gate will want to go through that? I said, I don't care. If they are so sick and tired of being in the position that they're in with no hope and at the end of their road, they better be willing to do anything that we ask them to do.
Yeah.
Because we will build this and we will change their life. And the programs we have are just, it's a 3 to 5 year program depending upon what your need is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And when we get done building this and get it up in operation for the first year and look at all the tweaks we may need to do, then it's going to get franchised. I expect that we would 24 to 30 across the nation, exactly what we just did.
Yeah.
See, we already have the mayor of Dearborn Heights, Michigan, a father-son team in North Carolina, and a husband-wife team down in Waco, Texas,
Awesome.
that have already stepped up and said, we will take the first 3.
That's amazing.
See, we will get this out across the nation.
Oh yeah, you got to figure it out. Short term, long term, how to build the short term into the long term. Yeah.
Like a friend of mine said, you cannot get anywhere major in life if you're not shooting for the stars.
Did you picture going this big with it when you first initially started, nationwide?
No.
No. At what point did that become prevalent?
Like a goal you thought you could do.
The more I got working with the fact that 44 a day is nationwide.
And
Mm-hmm.
okay.
And the one thing about it, Montana, unfortunately, is number one. And we go back and bounce back and forth with Alaska at being number one, the highest rate per capita of suicide. We are number one most of the months of the year. Number one or number two is either Western Alaska, and Wyoming is right shortly behind us.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, that big center the territory that it'll cover is Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Montana.
Yeah.
So it'll cover that whole entire region. That'll be the region of that facility.
And these aren't super populated states either, so having
Right.
one for all of them
Right.
would cover it
Yeah.
probably.
Like in New York,
Assuming
probably
that,
just take one for that entire, just for that state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
California probably have 3 down there.
Well, I think that right in the south edge of Oregon, I think can probably take care of
Yeah.
Yeah.
at least northern California, Oregon, and Washington.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And maybe the one in, say, New Mexico
Yeah.
will cover
that south
southern
part of
California.
That
New
that makes a
Mexico
lot
and
more
Arizona.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Then Texas probably will take one all by itself. Maybe
Maybe 2.
maybe Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Maybe Louisiana.
Is
Yeah.
there any states where you
Amazing.
think it'll be hard to get into compared to places like Montana or Oregon?
No, I don't see any resistance.
You think
because the track record that we will create,
Once you're
we
at
will
the
be
level.
wanted.
Yeah.
And see, it's not going to be us doing it. That's why I'm saying franchise.
Yep.
See, going back to that equine, there'll be 2,000 or 3,000 homes of people that are worth hundreds of millions, if not billions,
Yep.
of dollars. Once we get them completely on board with what we're doing, that can be at least the down payment, some of the hard capital to be able to get everything else moving.
Yeah.
So you're kind of going about it in a way of like take Blake Shelton, for example, right? He moves in, he does all this, he does all that, right? That gives you the funding to give the veterans free therapy and free this and free that, right? You're using like the top kind of 1% to fund the bottom 99 in a way.
Kind of. How we expect to, here again, I'm not going to mention names of
Yep.
organizations. We are nonprofit.
Yeah.
There's some of these other nonprofit veteran organizations that are really big.
Yep.
One in particular, you donate $100 to them, only $7 of that helps the veteran because they become so big. For you to stay a nonprofit, a pure nonprofit, you've got to practically for all the service you do, say it takes you 12 hours, you've got to spend the other 28 hours finding grants, getting donations, getting sponsors, just nothing but a huge district to be able to create the funding to be able to use it. Or you turn big business. I don't want this to ever turn big business.
Yeah, because that's when it
And
becomes unmanageable.
and we have got way too much work to do than be spending our time out raising money.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is there's a lot of the federal programs, and through Donald Trump, I hope this all changes. There's a lot of programs that you cannot require Christian programs to get federal funding.
Yeah.
See, the part that a lot of the federal government has missed on separation of church and state was in for only one purpose, so that the government cannot tell a church what to do. It's not so you can't bring Jesus into government.
Yep.
Donald Trump has brought that back in the White House. And I hope that it's able to spread everywhere
Yeah.
across the nation. It'll change a lot. But that's one of the obstacles we have. Is like if we get any money through HUD, we cannot require anybody to go to our Christian programs.
Yeah.
So and also too, when you're talking about reimbursements through the VA for a lot of our programs, which we will get.
Yep.
This right here, we will get immense amount of reimbursements.
Yep.
Yeah.
To be able to get those reimbursements, sometimes it's really unstable when they come in, how often they come in. It could be 2 weeks after you set it in to 8 or 9 months afterwards.
Yep.
So you cannot rely on that. You've got to be able to have enough money in the capital to be able to operate everything for at least 6 months to be able to bill and have it replenish. And that's what we're planning on doing here.
Okay.
That facility down there is enormous. So what I've done was I've designed it. Okay, the facility is right in the middle.
Okay.
On one side is a 40-acre retirement center community
Okay.
Okay.
for retirement housing, assisted living, and skilled nursing. On the other side is going to be 3 major manufacturers. We have a gun manufacturer, we have an ammo manufacturer, and a pharmaceutical manufacturer that's going to move in there. We're going to be building that entire retirement community off donations and grants so that there's no debt servicing. We'll be able to then headhunt for the kind of people we want in here.
Yeah.
I want to lower the overhead here. It'll take 130 staffing to be able to run this facility here. I only want 9 of them to be on the payroll. Everybody else is going to be volunteers.
Gotcha.
And how am I going to be able to make that work over in this facility over here? Doctor, you and your wife want to go in the assisted living facility. Your normal pricing would be $8,500 a month. If you're willing to donate 20 hours a week of your time over in the center over here, it's now $2,500 a month.
Oh, okay.
We'll be able to fill those, the doctor, the nursing staff, the chefs, the cooks, the kitchen staff, the janitorial staff. We will be able to fill all the staffing members from that from that retirement center. We also have another section over here in our housing, which we're going to be creating into an affordable community. See, one of the problems is Southwest Montana and these little tiny communities like that, there's not a lot of jobs, not a lot of chance for growth.
Yeah.
So if you graduate from high school and want a family, you've got to move away.
Mm-hmm.
You can't afford to stay
Yeah.
right where you're at. What we're going to do is actually create affordable real, true affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
We will be bringing the money that we need, work even adding it ourselves too, with where there'll be a subdivision here of about 300 to 400 homes, with where we will buy down for first-time home buyers. First of all, building a $225,000 home with a $100,000 buy down, we'll be able to sell nice, beautiful homes for a family
Yeah.
at $125,000. And we will have the jobs, good paying jobs.
For them to be able to
Yeah.
pay that
Yeah.
house off.
Yeah. So from that group right there too, they would be working over here because we'll only be taking about 40 to 45% of the jobs at these manufacturing plants.
Yep.
The rest of them will be for the townspeople or for this young group that just got married, starting a family.
Yep.
We'll be able to get them to donate some of their time. If we have a good enough job over here for the husband, who knows? Mom might be willing to just even donate overtime over here.
Yeah.
So we'll have that. That'll cut the overhead way, way down. Now over here, these manufacturing plants, for that 3 to 5 years that you're in that facility, we'll be paying for everything. Your clothing, your housing, your food, your classroom, everything. You don't need a dime for anything. We'll now train you for a future career. If you're in a wheelchair, have prosthetic legs and need to go to work in a wheelchair because on the prosthetic legs might be, or you're paralyzed from the waist down.
Yeah.
We'll train you for a career over here. See, all these manufacturers, I told them there's going to be a certain number of jobs we're going to have to tool for wheelchair accessibility. But every person over here in the Veteran Center, while they're going to classes, they'll start off 1 hour a day over here learning a career. Then after the 1 year, it'll go up to 2 hours and 3 hours. That last 1.5 to 2 years that they're there will be 4 hours a day learning, so that they'll be coming in being trained as an apprentice, so that by the time they leave here, they now can get a permanent job as a journeyman.
Yeah.
And get a high-paying job. We will have close to 1,000 homes for the veterans, a veteran community. That's just veterans only.
Yeah.
That they can, because they've got this job now, they can qualify for this VA loan and buy their own home here. This manufacturer doesn't pay them. They donate that amount of money to the 501c3, saving them all the overhead, the taxes, the insurance, workers' comp insurance, Social Security, everything. And they get a deduction for donating to 501c3. So you're looking at a 38 to 42% savings. So what it does is gives them, like that ammo manufacturer, they can now manufacture high precision ammo and sell it normal box price.
Yeah.
They will pretty much own the market.
Jeez. Sounds like kind of what you're going for is kind of like complete and total like self-sustainment, right? Yeah. This part of the loop feeds back into this part, feeds back into this part, and it all goes back around to the point where you don't really need any outside help or anything like that. It's just there. It can exist on its own as its own thing. Yeah. Has anything like this ever been attempted in this? I'm sure not in the state, but in the country, like a huge kind of community, like a smart city, it sounds like kind of what you're going for.
I'm sure it's been done, but I don't know.
I've never heard anything like this before.
See, everything I've designed right here, even if something like that does exist anywhere, I put the blinders on.
For sure.
Because I need to recreate them. See, my education is in accounting and finance.
Yep.
So back in the late 1970s, I was building homes when other contractors were down drinking coffee complaining about the economy because the interest rates were 15, 16% interest.
Yeah.
Because my knowledge before it was even a thing, I figured out exactly how to take part of their down payment and buy down that interest rate by prepaying the interest
Okay.
to be able to make their monthly mortgage payments affordable. But when it started hitting 18, 19, 20%, it was not really buy downable.
Okay.
But see, I stayed work long after other people did. We built several homes, myself and a partner, up in the Bull Run edition.
Okay.
For like one particular guy was a doctor with a nice, beautiful home.
Yep.
While everybody else was down at Sambo's drinking coffee, complaining about the economy, about the interest rates, that we can't find work.
So you went to school for accounting, right?
Yeah.
How did that get you into property development?
By going to work for the government in the,
Okay.
in the accounting department.
Okay. Yeah.
When you're stuck in a room that has no windows, usually the accounting office, because security purposes and everything, you're stuck in a little cubby hole with where there's no windows, totally secure, and the isolation and the doldrum of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And it's done this way because it's the way it's always been done.
Yep.
And there's no no change to it.
Yeah.
So I quickly decided right then and there, I'm not an accountant. I will use that experience and knowledge on how to run my own business,
Yeah.
on how to do things differently.
And from there, that's when you got into property development.
Yeah.
How soon into your career did you start your own company? Because your Gideon Land is
I had my own
your...
company while I was in college.
Oh.
I started my company. See, in Helena in 1975, that summer, there was a real bad hail damage.
Okay.
Hailstorm.
Okay.
And wiped out a big high percentage of roofs. There was a lot of roofing contractors coming in from all over the nation into Helena. So I went to work for one of them as a roofer.
Yeah.
Realizing, okay, I'm making $7 a square. He's charging $25 a square. I've never seen him.
Yeah.
He's not even working. He's making more money than
So-
me. Yeah.
So I put out my own shingle and
Yeah.
started my own company. Pretty soon, see, my dad raised me. I built some of our cabinet in our bathroom when we remodeled that when I was 8 years old.
Oh, damn.
My dad taught me he was a master carpenter.
Yeah.
And he taught me ever since I was about 5 years old how he let me work power tools I have no idea.
I'm sure it was a different day
Working a
back then.
tool
Yeah.
that can take your fingers off.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
But as a result of that trust, I became very, very good at what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as the roofing came down, I started transitioned into remodels, kitchen remodels, bay windows, skylights, and all sorts of different things. And pretty soon I got into building homes. Pretty soon I went on to commercial construction.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There's a brick building on what used to be called Superior Fire Apparatus in Helena. That was my first commercial job. The big addition, the brick addition.
Okay.
So then when I went to college in Missoula, I just kept on working while I was going to school.
As somebody who has been in the industry of property development, housing developments too, what do you think of modern architecture? Because I imagine that like you like the idea of Old Town so much because of the old architecture that it used to have, right?
It's not for me.
Okay.
I don't really care for the designs. I like
Yeah.
the old-fashioned, good, solid.
Like, you know, when you're driving through Bozeman, Missoula, and you see those apartment complexes that seem like they were copy and pasted all right next to each
Yeah.
other. I don't like that stuff.
Neither do
I don't. That's why I like Uptown Butte so much. That's why I'm so happy you're bringing that here to Uptown Butte. I feel like it has a lot of unique architecture, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like a unique plan like yours, it's kind of fitting to be in a unique
Yeah.
place historically, you know? What made you choose Butte besides the low cost of living, or was it just the low cost of living?
Low cost of living and adequate jobs, and
Yeah.
just and having a college, having the right education here, and especially being in a place with where it's walking distance to a lot of different
yeah.
things
Oh,
for
yeah.
our veterans.
Especially when you're uptown too.
Yeah.
And our city transit is pretty decent. We have I think 3 buses.
Yep.
Yeah, do pretty good. So
Yeah, Silverboe County, the officials down there, really, really easy to work with.
really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would assume so. Yeah.
Like even when we first looked at that building, I brought out a engineer to go do a walkthrough in that building to identify what kind of things need to be done. Called the building department, talked to one of the inspectors. He knew the building and was just so open and so friendly.
Awesome.
It's hard to find people like
Oh yeah.
that are as friendly as the people down here.
Oh yeah, I hear that a lot.
I would agree with that. Yeah. There's a lot of friendly people over here.
We're both
love
born
it.
and raised here, so we don't really have the best. He has a better perspective than me.
Yeah.
I haven't left the state in like 10 years, but
I leave all the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Here-
hear
see if
people
you-
from here nice.
See if you're from Butte from the 40s. That's a whole other
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
Butte,
a different thing.
Butte and Anaconda back in the 40s and 50s.
Different
it
reputation.
was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard.
What do you
Different
think changed
reputation.
about it? Just people leaving?
Probably that. Yeah.
Different economy.
Different economy.
Yeah. Different drive to it.
That makes
Not-
sense.
Like the mine was a big thing back in those days too. So it's like they're
What-
not making
And when
nearly as
you're-
much money over here.
And when you're in an industry that you might or might not come out of a hole that day,
Yeah.
you're living each day as though it might be your
Yeah.
last.
You're
Yeah.
kind of hating on everybody.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. What do you think of the mine here?
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
The history here is cool.
The history here is insane. I don't know if you knew this, but here at our high school, we have we learn Butte history. It's required. I don't know if any other place, like in Helena, when you were in high school, did they teach Helena history?
Oh, yeah.
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 Helena's pretty important too.
Most
First
schools
state
do
capital.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Butte's definitely got an interesting history to it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
heard about all the battles of the capital.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because first of all, the Montana Territory, the original capital was in Bannock, and Helena
Yes.
stole it.
Yep.
Then
I
when it became
remember-
a state,
I remember hearing about this when I went to Bannock.
Jefferson City, Virginia City was voted as the capital, and Helena stole it.
Helena's too good at stealing their
Yeah,
capital,
man.
man.
Jeez.
Then they came up and stole the stuff back, and then we stole it back again, and the town folk down in Virginia City said, "Well, the governor, good luck keeping him alive." They threatened to take him out.
Jesus.
Yo.
If you ever drive down Last Chance Gulch, Main Street,
Yeah.
Main Street goes only 2 blocks, then turns. 2 blocks, then turns. There's a purpose of that.
Why?
Buffalo guns, felt like within 2 blocks they could protect the governor,
Okay.
but not with a buffalo gun that the Indians call shoot today, kill tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's why Main Street is so crooked.
That makes sense.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. I've always wondered why Main Street's so weird over there, but
So,
What's your favorite city in Montana? Is it Helena?
Missoula is probably my favorite city,
Me too.
but I don't like what it's become.
How do you mean?
So woke
So woke. Fair.
yeah.
Fair.
I
and
get
so
that.
and so liberal.
Mm-hmm.
Very hippie over
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
See, back when I went to college back there in the 70s, it was a beautiful city.
Yep. My grandparents used to live there throughout the 80s and I think early 90s, and they said around then is when it kind of started getting,
Yeah.
and they got out of there.
Yeah, it's not a declared sanctuary city, but by all rights, it acts like a sanctuary city. They
Yeah.
protect.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
Interesting. That's crazy. Do you got anything coming up here soon for
Yeah, within
this?
like the next month or 2 months, other than the
Memorial
May,
Day?
other than the
Well,
May thing as well.
May 3rd, we've got
Yeah.
Yep.
that Center for Warriors benefit.
And you said that's over where they usually put all the flags in the rows?
No, that on May 3rd, that's at the Miller's Crossing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
at Miller's Crossing.
Gotcha.
And during the entire month of April, I will be going on weekends, location to location, to different locations, with that snowmobile out in front of their store,
Yep.
selling tickets,
Awesome.
raffle tickets.
Smart.
Very cool.
We'll start off at Albertsons
Yep.
and end at Safeway.
That'd
Okay.
be cool.
And what I plan on doing, they don't know it yet, but I'm going to get the fire department down there with their big ladder truck.
Oh,
with a
that'd be
big
so cool.
They
major
don't know it
flag
yet.
up there.
They'll do it.
Yeah, I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
Those guys are always looking for something to do.
Yeah.
They don't know it yet, but they're going to be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll be there
They'll agree to it. They
for
know it.
sure. Why wouldn't they?
So, and then May 26th is the ceremony,
Yep.
Memorial
Awesome.
Day ceremony down at Memorial Park, where all the flags are,
Yep.
Yep.
right between the ice skating rink and the swimming pool.
Mm-hmm.
Then September will be the archery elk camp, and throughout the summer we'll be doing
The
the
fly
fly
fishing.
fishing, and also using a lot of the veterans to build stuff on our new camp.
Very cool.
Do you have a date yet for the homeless shelter up here, or is that very much still in the process of getting figured out?
Don't have a date yet, but we're aiming for late August.
That's not
Late
bad.
August?
That's coming up. That's
Yeah.
coming up.
Yeah, I do have line on the money. Went through a group up in
Gotcha. Yeah.
White Sulphur.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good place to get some investment. Yeah.
Yeah. You're rocking.
Yeah, you're on top
genuinely.
of it.
The fact that I feel like a lot of people, to do something like this, there would be some sort of financial incentive. You know, it doesn't seem like there's that for you at all. It seems like you're doing this because you actually care. You know, even though you're not personally a veteran yourself, you know, you can bring yourself to sympathize.
I am a veteran, but here's the deal. Back in 1975, actually in late 1974, I enlisted in the Air Force.
Okay.
I took the test and got a real high grade.
Yep.
Got up in the 90s. Got a guaranteed job. Went down to Lackland Air Force Base. Went to basics. And right towards the end, and if you go back in history in the 70s, they did this quite a few times with where to get people in there. I did a delayed entry.
Yep.
I didn't miss Vietnam by much. But I went in, started getting our orders of where we're going to go to tech school, and they brought me in and said to me, well, we don't have room in the tech school. I was going to be a mechanic,
Yep.
jet engine mechanic. We don't have room in the tech school right now. So we can either have you stay in and go where we need you to be, or we'll give you an honorable discharge. So I went down and talked to my chaplain and asked him to see where they're going to put me, because they wouldn't tell me where they're going to put me.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So they came back, and he gave me a pass to come back to there to see him the next night, and went back down there the next night. He said, you're going to be an MP, which everybody called the BFers, the buddy.
Yeah.
The best friends.
Yeah.
Yep.
But not best friend, though.
No.
I wasn't that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I took the honorable discharge.
Not many
Yeah.
people are.
Yeah, not many people can do that stuff. Yeah.
Prior to 1980, if you were only in the armed forces for one day, you're qualified as a
considered
veteran.
Oh, gotcha.
What did they change it to in 1980?
180 days.
100 days. Is it still
That's a-
that?
Yeah.
That's a
Okay.
drastic
Yeah.
change.
Yeah,
from
that
one
feels
day.
like a
Yeah.
huge
Like,
jump.
Jesus.
I feel like a lot can happen in under 180
Yeah,
days,
like,
right?
you do a lot before you're even.
Yep.
Like, oh, whatever. They do what they want.
I did not mean to say you weren't a veteran, though. I apologize. I had not
no,
previously
you
known
didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's fine. See, I never counted myself as a veteran before. Because even though legally, I was considered
Yeah.
a veteran. I never took advantage of it. I
Mhm.
never
Yeah. Yeah.
took a veteran park. I still don't take a veteran parking spot.
Yeah.
I do take the veteran discount at Lowe's.
Hey, you
Why
gotta
wouldn't
do
you?
that.
Why wouldn't you?
But to me, using that is almost like stolen valor because I really did not
Yeah.
in there long enough to be considered valor.
Yeah.
But the only thing about it now is I'm giving back to my country in a total different way through our veterans. Now I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Because of all these years I've been working with helping our veterans. I mean, that's all I do.
Yeah. Meeting
all I do.
veterans, talking to them. Yeah. Just trying to help them out. It's different than what anybody does. So.
Yeah.
Do you think not going into the military maybe like permanently ended up being a good thing? Do you think you would end up here where you are now had you gone into the military and gone through something traumatic? Do you think you'd be in the position where you are now being able to help the people that you are?
Here's one of the things. When you're getting close to 70 years old,
Yeah.
you look back at your life and think to yourself, if I would have done this different.
Yeah. What if?
Then all of a sudden you realize when you've got 17 grandkids, beautiful grandchildren,
Yeah.
one great-granddaughter, another great-granddaughter on the way,
Ooh.
4 beautiful children. If I would have done one thing different, none of them would exist.
Yeah.
Could have all changed. Yeah.
If I would have gone into the Air Force and would have gone to overseas or done anything, I would have never met my wife.
Mm-hmm.
If I would have, like when I was in high school, I was 6'2", 240 pounds, and ran a 4.840.
Ooh. You were a
I was
monster.
the biggest kid in
Oh,
my
yeah.
class and tied for the second fastest
That's
40.
crazy. Do you have football scholarships and all that?
Well,
Yeah.
Fair.
yeah, I started drinking instead.
I got
I
you.
met a little redhead,
Yeah.
got into Budweiser,
Yeah.
and it ruined.
Redheads are always bad news, man.
See, I was planning on going to college on a full ride scholarship as a fullback
Yeah.
for Notre Dame.
Ooh.
And then I wanted to run fullback for the Packers.
Yep.
That was my goal, and I could have made it.
I bet you could have. Yeah.
6'2",
6'2".
that fast,
Yeah.
240 pounds. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They would steal a guy like you.
See, when
yeah.
it comes to 100 yards, though, I was slow. But that quick, that 40 yards.
That 40 though, that could
That's all
really
you
make
need.
or break a game.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But yeah, there's a lot of things in my life that I would have done different. I don't regret a single thing.
Good.
Everything that happened in my life right now, I can look back on and see what I have now.
Especially with where you're at. You know, you're not just doing good for yourself. You know, you move past that to what I feel a lot of people never really give themselves a chance to do, and that's be good for other people as well.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a lot. And like you said, I mean, pulling 70-hour weeks doesn't even feel like work. You know, you found what you love, you found what you're passionate about, and you're going the distance with it. It is truly inspiring to see, you know, genuinely.
Amazing.
See, the one thing I appreciate about the VAs, you know, when I first started this, I was hearing a lot of horror stories. Like I said before, how they put them on heavy psychotropic drugs.
Yeah, yeah.
But the closer I started working with the VA on different things, the more I started realizing there are some avenues that they have that they do wonderful work.
Mm.
But are they effective? Their budgets that they have. And I'm just hoping that with the reorganization of everything through Doge and through Trump on strengthening the military, I'm hoping that at some point in time that things really do get perfected. You know, over the last 2 weeks, there was massive cuts at the VA. There was a lot of people up there scared. One of my people that I have working internally in our program is an officer there at the VA. And he called me up last week and said, Rob, I can't come there to this one meeting that we had. He said, I can't even leave the building here in fear that my job might be gone. But see, what they're doing is they are in the process of clearing house right now so they can rebuild it
Better. Hopefully.
better and work. Because like right now, if you call down there to be able to get an appointment at the VA for a medical appointment, you're looking at 8 or 9 months. There's just so many things that are so inefficient there.
Yeah.
But the people who work there, like the nursing staff, some of the doctors are great. A few of them, the doctors aren't.
Do you
But the volunteers that are there are pure.
do you think a lot of it too is budget constraints, stuff like that, checks and balances that you have to go through to do this one simple thing? How much of it do you think is that funding, stuff like that too, that kind of limits the VA?
Well, part of it is a story came out in New York Times that I have saved in my computer. It's where they discovered $946,000 that was diverted from the veterans to the illegals to pay for the hotels in New York City. And there's so many moving targets right now with the overhaul cost of the VAs across America when you combine them together,
Yeah.
that there's so much fraud that they don't know exactly where it is and exactly what kind of money is going in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're doing right now is re-gearing and stripping down things to be able to get back to square one. And then let's rebuild it and rebuild it right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. So it's just kind of inefficiency
Yeah.
in the VA is kind of
Total
what's limiting
inefficient.
Inefficiency and kind of the lack of care
Yeah.
sometimes for certain things. They just stopped kind of paying attention to certain
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
And thinking the budgets are real high when they're really been stripped
Yeah.
for something else.
Exactly.
They don't have nearly the money that they really should have.
it. Yeah.
But it does have to be sleeked down.
Yeah.
When I was going through there, like I spent 2 days going through the offices right there in that old brick building in the administration building.
Yep.
And never even made a fractionally through it. There are so many employees there that, what do they do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of these places get too big, so big, I'm sure that if you work there, you're kind of just able to kind of sit around,
Mm-hmm.
not really do anything,
Yeah.
collect that paycheck. Yeah. That's why a lot of big tech companies, like big gaming developers, have been laying off people too, is because they don't really need them.
They don't need them anymore because technology's advanced to the point where they don't need nearly as many people for one certain thing.
They did the same thing with Twitter, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just scaled it down.
They do they do it with a lot of companies every few years.
See, our southwest facility, that 240,000 square foot facility, it's going to have a big medical center in it too.
That would be cool.
See, what we're doing is looking at what they do and do well, and we're pairing up opposite.
Yeah.
So I look at someday having a lot of the services privatized.
Mm.
And since the government is going that way right now and really, really looking at trying to privatize as much as they possibly can, it's like the Constitution. A government that is so big that it takes care of your every need is also big enough that can destroy you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where our government is right now. So by reducing things down, making the VA system into a sleek facility that specializes in several different things
Yeah.
here and there, instead of the overall thing that they're trying to do,
Yep.
that they're not effective at in a lot of areas. Those areas that they're not effective at is the areas that we will be doing,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the specialty areas too.
Seems like they're doing too much
Right.
for the means that they have to accomplish those goals.
Correct.
Right. And you're trying to pretty much build a structure that could handle all of those issues that they just simply can't process right now. Okay. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And right now we've got 4 bills right now in Washington, D.C. So,
Just kind of waiting on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we have both Zinke, Downing, Danes,
Yep.
and Sheehy. They're all 4. The
Yeah.
vet reps for them and also the chief of staff of Downing.
Yep.
Downing is the one carrying my bills. And as soon as it's ready to go into Congress, he'll bring Zinke in.
Awesome.
So the 2 of them together can bring the power in to be able to get it going.
Yeah.
Then when it goes in front of Senate, Sheehy and Daines will pair up and take it the rest of the way. Yeah, I even got the approval that once these bills are ready for Donald Trump to sign, we can bring a whole delegation there. to be
Awesome.
with them.
That'll
That'd
be
be
crazy.
cool.
That'll be
That'll be
crazy.
awesome.
How long
But-
do you see that?
They're looking at bringing it in April.
Oh, that is
April? That's soon.
that's next
very
month.
soon.
Yeah.
That is next. That is next month.
All right.
You know
Oh.
what? Like one of them is going to be for a Green Star designation.
Yep.
Without that designation, there's a lot of programs that we don't qualify for because
Yep.
it's not
Yeah.
federal programs
I
because it's
gotcha.
not observed.
Mm-hmm.
Gold Star families are observed.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you see so many foundations across America.
That makes sense.
But Green Star, you don't see any.
No.
It seems like a missing part of it that should have been there already. That
Yeah.
Green Star family designation. You know.
And I'd like to say a few things about that because one of the things about that I look at it is when they come home and our system fails them because exactly like the missing components
Yep.
Mhm.
or inefficient components of the VA, that when they come home from an injury and the system fails them and they take their own life, I think we've got to go back and see what the injury was and call that basically their death.
Yep.
Mm.
And I want to even try working forward to on when we can really isolate those areas like that, get them a Purple Heart.
Yep.
But we've created a new medal that looks exactly like the Purple Heart, has a white background, standing same shape as the Purple Heart, same size, everything. But the background is white, standing for the pureness of their service to our country, with a diagonal red lightning bolt through it, standing for the violent bloodshed that ended their life.
Mm.
That's beautiful. Actually.
Yeah.
So there's going to be requirements, like for instance, this person had to have it honorable, not something else than a dishonorable.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even go as far as saying it has to be honorable. It can be a general,
Yep.
but if it's a general, we got to look and see what it was
Yeah.
about
What
Mhm.
it was.
and see what kind of person they were in their life afterwards. Like Neil Rayolette, I can design the entire whole program around using him as an example.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That if they lived life like this, that family gets that medal.
Yeah.
That's one of the other things that is in Congress right now, is the approval of that medal, so it can be sanctioned.
That's good.
I mean, I have full confidence in that one
Yeah.
personally. I couldn't see
Why?
anybody denying
Yeah.
that.
What
Yeah.
excuse could they come up with to
Exactly.
deny that?
It's
Yeah.
like I said, it seems like something that should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, with the statistics that have been out for how long now, you know, it's good to see that people are actually doing stuff that needs to be done.
Yeah.
See, I've got the National Office of TAPS, Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, that are willing to join up with us
Okay.
on the Green Star family.
That'll
Awesome.
be good.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
And I've got another
It's-
program that does college scholarships that as soon as we get the designation for it, that
Yeah.
does only Gold Star right now. As soon as we did get the designation,
They want to start doing the Green
they
Star.
want to join us.
Awesome.
That's good. I mean, what percentage of, I'm trying to think of a good way to word this question. What percentage of veterans commit suicide, right? Like right now, how there's 44 nationwide. is that like roughly 10% of people who go into the military and come out? Like, do you know what the statistics like that are, or is it kind of hard to compile
It's
that kind
real.
of data?
That I have looked that up before, but it's all over the board.
Okay.
Like the people who come through Vietnam
Yep.
is different than the ones who went to Iraq
Okay.
versus
Yeah. Just anything that they've been deployed
Yeah.
to. It's all
Yeah.
different.
It has to do with what the kind of warfare is too, like
Yeah.
the Agent Orange.
Oh yeah, that's still killing people today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And it's getting people sick enough to the point with where we've got Vietnam veterans today that are taking their own life.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to. They get so depressed because nobody's really there to help them.
Yeah.
Like I've got a guy from over in North Dakota that has a letter from the Mayo Clinic that he has cancer and he's dying as a result of several things that Agent Orange initiated. And he was trying to get a license to be able to hunt in Montana. And there's a program that Montana Fish and Wildlife Parks does do for a veteran that's dying, that they can come to Montana without being an out-of-stater license.
Yeah.
But the problem is they need to get beyond that, they need to also get a letter from the VA.
Oh, that's the hard part.
Which, yeah, he came over
And
here
that-
and he could not get one.
That shouldn't be the hard part. Yeah.
I mean, I see why they do it to like confirm that you're a veteran and stuff like that, but I mean, there has to be another way to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
there has to be.
That,
Yeah.
Like that just kind of seems like they're trying to make it a little difficult, you know. I don't know about how like all that kind of type of stuff works, but I don't know. It seems like it could be an easier process
Yeah.
for sure. I just find it so crazy that I feel like the veteran issue is one of the ones that are unique because everybody knows about it, right?
Mhm.
So many people know about it. It's one of the first things you learn in school as a kid, right? Like everybody knows that veterans don't get the treatment that they deserve for fighting for this country and risking their lives or putting themselves in spots, right? But it doesn't really seem like many people, especially like state and local officials, are really trying to go actively do something about it. You know, like that's why I find you to be such an interesting person because you're somebody who has just made it their full thing. You know, you were running with it off into the sunset. You know, why do you think that is? Why do you think it's hard for people for an issue that is so pretty much, yeah, we can all agree on that, people to actively do stuff about it?
Kind of the sign of the times.
You think?
Selfishness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
It's hard for people
everything
to
that-
admit that other people have problems other than them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Has it gotten worse as the years go on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. What is it, Gen Z?
Yeah.
The ones that are all about 18, 19 years old now?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're Gen Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was, you guys are different.
I appreciate that.
Gen Z, for the most part, that's where a lot of the issues and the problems are coming through.
I could see that.
Then you look at that new generation now that all of a sudden now is 5, 10 years old.
Yep.
I have a lot of hope.
Me
that things
too.
are going to change.
Me too. Hopefully. I think a big part of where it comes from our generation is I think at some point in time, the United States kind of like, because I feel like people used to respect veterans a lot more and like be kind of in tune with that because of all this cool stuff you'd see about the American military and this and that, you know what I mean? And then recently with like all of these debates about being in the Middle East and this and that, I think a lot more people from my generation are a little bit more hesitant to kind of show their desire to help that issue because of all of these other outlying issues kind of surrounding it.
All the controversy
Yes.
surrounding war.
Yep, and all
Yeah.
that. I think that's a big factor in it. But me personally, and I know Clint too, you know, we feel as if like if you go, right, and you do something as selfless as like going overseas fighting for the country, you know what I mean? Like you shouldn't be just disregarded.
You should be
right
given
after.
that same sense of selflessness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, like it saddens me to see that like the superpower of the world, you know, will take its own soldiers and just kind of to them, you know what I mean? It's kind of like sad to see. And I don't know, that's why seeing like you doing this, you know, somebody who like nobody's forcing you to do this. It's not your job to do this. You know, you decided one day I'm going to go and I'm going to do this, and you've been doing it ever since. You know, I think that is something that will probably hopefully become like more prevalent. You know, I think as my generation gets a little bit older, I think they'll probably start to see more like, hey, I'm over here doing what I'm doing right now because there's people over there doing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that will become more prevalent. I think a big part of it right now, like I said, though, is just all this like different sides and all this arguing surrounding what war is and what the military has become.
Well, it's not, and just like how divided this country
Exactly.
is nowadays. It's
You know?
no matter what comes up, it's going to be a fight,
Yep.
like between the government or whatever.
I have got a
between
lot of
people.
hope that that's going to end soon.
Me too.
With the last speech that Trump did, the people on the far, far, far left, with the way they behaved. Did you guys see that on
No.
TV?
Mm-mm.
When they could not stand for a child who has not died yet of cancer, who wasn't expected to make it to 5 years old, and at 13 years old, he's still alive. They would not stand and clap for him. They would not stand and clap for two mothers that were there that their daughters were violently raped and beaten and murdered. And they wouldn't clap for them. The only people they clapped for was the war in Russia.
Mm.
They stood up for Ukraine, not for America.
Yeah.
And I think that this last vote was where I think there were 8 or 9 Democrats, including Schumer, stepped up and voted yes. That's why we're not shut down today. I think there's some division right now that's starting to take place with where that part of it that was so toxic. And see, I cannot, as Center for Warriors, I have to remain bipartisan.
Yeah.
But seeing that division in such an ugly way, now it's starting to really start to separate over here. It's fractured.
Yeah.
And that fracture is going to break them with where this half that's starting to fall back towards the middle, this other half that include AOC and a few of those idiots are just going to get dropped to the wayside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised if AOC wins the next vote.
The funniest thing about her to me is, did you see those pictures of her down at the border where she was like fake crying at like the border?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God, it's hilarious. She's like obviously like hired a photographer and everything, and she's standing there like at the border just crying. Like it's funny. That's the only thing I've ever seen of her, but I thought it was pretty funny.
Probably is crying because we're not letting them in anymore.
But that makes sense. That makes sense. How hard has it been to remain bipartisan throughout this? Like, is it hard to kind of take your personal views and cast them aside for the views of the organization?
I have to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
There are some things that, okay, as far as saying what I am, I'm not going to say.
Yep.
I'm just going to say what's right and what's wrong.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I miss the Kennedy Democrats.
Yep.
I miss the days with where both sides were so close together. And sometimes you couldn't even tell by name.
Yeah.
Literally.
Like Kennedy.
Yeah.
I thought for a long time when I was a kid growing up that Kennedy was a Republican.
Yeah. You look too at these old debates of like Kennedy and politicians back then, and they have so much more respect for one another.
Yeah.
You know, politics has just kind of like grown to be a sport of like it's debate at this point of
Gotten
people just
ugly.
arguing. Yeah. And you look at these old debates and people are saying, yeah, I respect your opinion, but this is how I feel. Da 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 da. Like, I get why you think that way, but this is why I think you're wrong. Like, it used to be a lot more respectful of an atmosphere, you know, and now it's just kind of like a team sport. You know, you're
Yeah.
either blue or you're red. You know, like people don't think you're allowed to have like parts of both. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's interesting that division is like kind of become so prominent, you know, especially in the internet age where you think that it'd be a lot easier to cut through all of that,
Yeah.
you know, but it's weird because it makes it so much more potent,
Yeah.
you know, that division, people arguing online and screaming at each other, you know, through screens. It's crazy.
Mhm.
It's crazy how it's happened.
You know, I've gotten really, really deep into all of these different programs,
Yep.
veteran programs, veteran organizations. I mean, I've gotten now with where I'm about as deep as you can get
Yep.
into it with where I know what's
Yeah.
going on. And when I really knew and understood what's going on, that's why I got so heavy behind, not because he's Republican. I got heavy behind him because I started seeing the failures of Tester for our veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was to the point with where Tester was only doing things that made him look good. He was expected to do.
Mm-hmm.
That made him more money or gave him a better name or more power.
Politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like even the PAC Act. It's like only 7.34, I think is what 7.17% of the people that applied for PAC Act got approved.
PACT Act was the thing that brought down insulin prices, right? No? Or am I thinking of something
No.
else?
No, it was a act that there was a lot of thing behind it, but if you were hurt in war
Okay.
over Agent Orange or a few other things, that you could qualify for this one layer of money. That was a pretty big layer of money
Yeah.
individually to each person. But really, about the only people that got a real high percentage of it that applied were officers that
Mm.
really weren't really open to it.
Yeah.
But the actual warriors that were
The front
affected
lines
by it,
individuals.
yeah, they didn't get approved for it, most of them.
That's great. Only 7%.
Yeah.
That's insane. And who's in right now? Sheehy.
Yeah.
Yep. How's he treating you guys?
Oh, wonderful.
Wonderful. That's
Wonderful.
good. That's good.
Yeah, his vet rep,
Mm.
we work very, very close to him.
Yep.
Mm.
Gotcha.
And Downing. Downing is,
And Downing is
The other one.
Troy Downing
okay.
is the new congressman.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't keep
Now
up
we've
with
got
politics.
4 warriors
Yeah.
Oh
that
yeah.
have all 4 fought in
That's-
a war.
Yeah,
Good people to have, it seems.
for sure. Especially
Yeah.
considering the message that you're trying to
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
to people. You know. Truly, I mean, me personally, I don't think I have any more
Yeah, I don't got any more unless
questions.
you want to.
but if there's
shout
anything
anything
you'd like to
out.
promote, anything
Yeah.
like that,
Other than the dates we've already said, I
Yeah.
mean, we've already got those in, so I think we're pretty good over here. We got
anything else you'd like to talk about? Any
No.
people you'd like to give a shout out to?
No, I'd just like to say, okay, I'm Robert Rule. I'm the executive director of Center for Warriors Foundation. You can find us online at www.centerforwarriors, that's plural.org. That's centerforwarriors.org.
awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you.
We'll have all that along to the links with your other websites
Okay.
and that in the description of these videos. Are you sure there's nothing else you'd like to go over? Anything you'd like to promote?
No.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, we'd like talking to you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.